From the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Friday edition, Memorial Day weekend, and it feels like it's been a very long time since I could say that in all sincerity, because people are coming to the shore. It's not like last year where people were cooped up in their houses, hidden away from the world. No, we are actually having a Memorial Day weekend here in South Jersey, which is so much progress from what we dealt with last year. I am so grateful that it's here. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show. Hello, everybody. Here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app for all of you listening. Powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Live here in the Matt Black Kia Studios. Right, Matt Black Kia. They will get you approved today. Matt Black Kia, Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com. We got to get into the Phillies today because they're off today, which first of all makes zero sense to me. Who the heck has an off day on a Friday in a baseball season? But we'll get to that. Frank Klose joins us coming up at 6:20 p.m. Also, we got to get to the big news of the day. The big news of the day is, ladies and gentlemen, your Philadelphia 76ers and your Philadelphia Phillies will have full stadium capacity starting June 2nd. The city of Philadelphia came out today and said that they can now have full capacity at the stadiums. Now, we have all the details over at 973ESPN.com and the 973 ESPN mobile app. What that basically means is you could be seeing 20,000 plus at the Sixers' next home game, whether it's this round or the next round. Obviously, there's some caveats with it to do with the indoor mask mandate, a couple other things, but this is a huge, huge deal because for a lot of us who have lived here in the Northeast, this pandemic has been, I know it's been horrible for everyone, okay? But you could argue it's been almost worse for people in the Northeast because there's a lot of people in this part of the country that live off of seasonal and tourism and travel type of economies. And for those of us in this area, this is a signal that we are finally getting back to legitimate normalcy. The fact that the mask mandate is ending in so much of the areas here in New Jersey. The fact that we are getting like the full capacity for the Phillies and the Sixers. And for the Sixers, you thought home court advantage was the big deal. This team is 29-7 without everybody in the building this year during regular season. Over the last three seasons, the Sixers have an 80.9 winning percentage on their home court in the regular season and a 63.6% winning percentage over the last two postseasons at home. And then they won 2 this year. So you're doing that and you didn't have full capacity yet. And listen, people can talk all they want about the stupid fan who did what he did. That's one guy. Don't let one bad apple sour the bunch, okay? He's been kicked out. He's gone. End of story. End of conversation. But what we can talk about is when you got that 20,000 people at the Wells Fargo Center screaming for their 76ers, going nuts. 11,000 people went nuts when Pat Croce came out and rang the bell. Can you imagine what it's going to sound like when you have 20,000 people out there with whoever rings the bell? It's going to go nuts. And if the Sixers don't finish the Wizards down in Washington this weekend, oh man, here we go. That first home game back, the Wizards have no chance. This series is over, by the way. If anybody didn't know that, the Wizards aren't coming back in this series. They may win a game in Washington, but they're not winning both games. And you know what? If they come back to Philadelphia, it is signed, sealed, delivered. Because this is what you fought for during the regular season. This is why we were counting down the games for the home court advantage. Because the Sixers at home are a force of nature. Philadelphia fans are some of the most vocal and boisterous and committed fans I have ever seen in America. There's only a handful of cities in this country that get close, or even in the neighborhood, or in the conversation. All right. Outside of Philadelphia, it's the Seahawks fans, it's the Chiefs fans in Kansas City. For a game like basketball, you could argue Jazz fans are absolutely insane out there in Utah. There's so many other cities that Chicago, obviously, with football and baseball. Their fans are just diehard. It's wild. So Pittsburgh Steeler fans, there are other cities in the country where the fan bases get a big deal. But the Sixers take full advantage of the home court advantage. And now you're going to have a team that is won at an 80% plus clip during the regular season and a 64% clip at home in the postseason. Now they're getting full capacity back. You don't think a team like the Knicks or the Hawks aren't going to be a little overwhelmed by it? Look what's going on with the Knicks right now. They're not even full capacity. And the Hawks, they couldn't win game 2. And the fans were in their head after game 1. Now imagine if you got a full hostile crowd. You can't even hear each other anymore. You remember how eerie it was when you could hear the people talking during the game? You heard other sounds you're not supposed to hear during the game, on the game broadcast. Not going to hear that anymore. You won't be able to hear yourself in the arena. I remember I was at a Sixers game a couple years ago, and the Sixers were playing the Wizards, actually. It was an actual Wizards game, now that I remember it. And I'm thinking, this isn't a playoff game. This is a regular season game, but the place is packed, and the fans are loud, and I have to talk loudly for the person next to me to hear me. That's what we're talking about here. Take that and maximize it. The crowd is louder in the postseason. The crowd is more expressive. The crowd gives you more energy. And you know who feeds off it? Joel Embiid. And you know your best player is Joel Embiid. And that's why the 2021 Sixers have a legitimate chance to get to not just the Eastern Conference Finals, but the NBA Finals. Because being at home, it is psychologically impacts the home team and psychologically impacts the road team. And you know what? It is going to be massive and fun to watch. And I am all in for it. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Again, for all the details on the Sixers returning to full capacity at home, go to 97.3 ESPN.com or the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Now, this also means the Phillies are going to get fans back in the stands as well. So that is something else you want to keep in mind for the Phillies. So if you are somebody who's trying to get Phillies tickets, trying to go to a Phillies game this year, the tickets should come a lot easier now that there's not limited capacity. A little other news I want to get to before we dive deeper into some of the topics today. We talked with Paul Hudrick yesterday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. The news came out today of what is going on with a couple of players for the Sixers. Seth Curry is looking more and more like he's not going to play. Okay. He did not practice. He is someone that I understand you need to win games because he's a really big part of spreading the floor for your team. But he did not practice today. His status for game 3 is called unsure. I say just bench him. Not because of anything else, but just don't risk it. This is not the time and the place to push a guy to come back from an injury. You're up 2-0. George Hill can easily come in and play those minutes. Gives Matisse Thybulle more playing time as well. Maybe Korkmaz catches fire for about a 5-minute period. You don't need Seth Curry to win this series. And you're up 2-0. I understand what Paul Hudrick said yesterday. He was saying, listen, you want to put this team away. You want to put them in a 3-0 hole so you have nothing to worry about. I totally understand that. But I also don't want to risk a guy who is an important part of my offense. I know Seth Curry is not the most exciting player in Philadelphia, but he's a vital part of the floor spacing that has allowed Joel Embiid to elevate his game. The players have all fed off of each other this year. That starting lineup of Simmons, Embiid, Harris, Curry, Green, they feed off of each other. They are a group of five who really play well off of each other because you have Joel Embiid, this dominant superstar. You have Ben Simmons, the facilitator who can attack the basket. You have Tobias Harris, who is always looking to be aggressive. He basically is your number 2 scoring option at this point. I don't think anybody argues that anymore with the way he has played this year, especially being reunited with Doc Rivers. And then you have Danny Green, Seth Curry, who are out there to spread the floor, force defenses, to not clog the lane. So if Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, or Ben Simmons want to go and cut down the lane or do a back cut or stretch to the high post and then screen down or whatever they want to do on offense, they can do it without. So if the defense can't zero in on one guy or two guys, that's a huge deal. And I think that's something we have to keep in mind. I think that when you look at the Sixers and you know what Seth Curry brings to the table, I just say you don't want to risk it. I don't want to see a team try to force Seth Curry to do something and him possibly get hurt. He got smacked in the stomach in game 1. Now he hurts his ankle in game 2. It just might be smart just not to play the guy for one game. That's all I'm saying. By the way, the official Sixers injury report, Tobias Harris is no longer on it with his ankle. So it looks like Tobias Harris is good to go as well. So that is a very huge positive for this team as well. So again, Sixers back in action tomorrow night. You can hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. The text board is open at 609-403-0973 for all of you listening on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. As always, I love to get to your guys' comments later in the show right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Coming up next, we're going to talk some Phillies, though, because I got questions for Frank Klose. This Phillies team is one of the most confounding things I have ever seen in my life. I don't understand how this team has won games with the way they have lost games this year. The Philadelphia Phillies are tied for second in the NL East with 25-26 record. I don't know how they are in this position. I have no clue after some of the games that they have given up and that they have lost, how they have still found ways to win. But we're going to ask Frank Klose that exact question coming up next. Little uncomfortable, to say the least. So we'll get to all that with Frank Klose, our Phillies insider for 97.3 ESPN.com. Coming up next, right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, brought to you by Matt Black Kia. Matt Black Kia wants to get you approved today. That's Matt Black Kia on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com. Of course, your comments and thoughts later in the show as well. And of course, I am Josh Hennig at Josh Hennig on Twitter. And this is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show. Just follow 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers playoff basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McInnes, calling all the exciting Sixers playoff action.
Joel shoots it over the double team, and that's good. It doesn't matter.
It's Sixers Wizards. Game 3 tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers playoff basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN FM.
You asked for it. You got it. Fast Track Checkout at either Matt Blatt Kia location. Buy it your way. Complete your purchase online or have us deliver it during the Trade Up to a Kia sales event at Matt Blatt Kia in Egg Harbor Township or Tom's River. 0 money down and 0% financing for up to 60 months on every 2021 Kia Soul, Sportage, or Forte. Plus, we need your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Get out of that old car you hate with 0 down payment and 0% APR financing available for up to 60 months. Try Fast Track Checkout. Purchase completely online and have us deliver right to your home or office. Only at Matt Blatt Kia, where you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1667 for 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity financed into new loan. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires 7/6/2021. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. And now on Route 37 in Tom's River.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch Sports Bash with Mike Gill. Yours truly, Josh Hennig, on Game Night, Monday through Friday. Of course, catch Billy Schwein in the locker room Saturdays and Sundays, 10 a.m. to noon. All the live shows right here on 97.3 ESPN. Joining us right now, live from Clearwater. Yes, he's in Florida, and so are the Phillies. He's on the Boardwalk kind of hotline here on 97.3 ESPN. He is the one and only Phillies insider, Frank Klose, here on 97.3 ESPN. Frank, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Josh?
Doing pretty good, but I'm a little confused about this Phillies team. So I figured if I'm going to ask any about the Phillies, I should ask you, Frank. So first of all, I can't overlook what happened with Girardi yesterday. I purposely didn't talk about it when it happened initially because I don't want to be emotionally led. But 24 hours later, I'm still put off by what he said about not talking about the injuries. And I want to ask you, can you decipher what he was maybe trying to say, or maybe you have a clue about maybe what they were trying to impart? Because it feels like the world of sports is telling people what injuries are, but to turn around now and be like, yeah, we're not going to give you that information, just feels like a strange thing to do in 2021.
Yeah, I kind of think I get where he was coming from. I think he didn't want the opposition to know that Gene Segura was not available like he normally is available. And so we kind of figured out when he pinch hit and then Nick Maton came out to play defense that something must be up with Segura. I guess the cat's out of the bag now. Maybe they I think the key will be to tell whether or not they tell us tomorrow before they play the Rays if something is up with Gene Segura. But he did pinch hit, so I guess that's a good sign. But it just seems to me in this instance he didn't want the opposition to know that Gene Segura was not well.
But this isn't the first time that they've sent mixed signals, Frank, when it comes to guys who are injured. The whole thing with Bryce Harper, the fiasco with a couple other guys, it just seems like they just, do they not know what they're doing? Like, do they not know that there's a reason why we have injury reports? Like, I just don't understand. Like, what is going on here?
You know, in terms of all the other players that they've had be injured, let's face it, that their best offensive weapons are the ones that have been with these nagging injuries. You know, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Didi Gregorius, and now I guess Gene Segura. So I don't know, maybe it's part of his strategy. He wants the opposition to think that Bryce Harper is going to come off the bench and deliver a really good at bat. Those of us that watch Bryce Harper were probably skeptical that he could give them a really good at bat, given what's certainly something was off. But, you know, we couldn't tell what it was, but certainly something was off. So I guess that's the only thing I can think of is that he wants the strategy to be that he still wants the opposing manager to think that late in the close game that Bryce Harper is going to come off the bench and deliver a strong at bat. That's why I guess you wouldn't tell them. And I guess we'll have to see what kind of happens from here.
Frank Klose joining us here on the Worldwide Kind of Hotline here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, at Frank Klose on Twitter. It's Frank Klose with a K on Twitter. Of course, all of his Phillies coverage over at 97.3 ESPN.com. So, Frank, the Phillies have only won 12 games this month. and half those games I would argue were not very attractive wins, to say the least. Somehow they're tied for second in the National League East. How are we here?
Well, if you go up and down the National League East, every team has this amount of injuries. When you consider that yesterday's game, the Phillies started without 4 of their starting position players, and you could say 5 if you want to count the opening day starter, Adam Haseley. That's quite the tall task. And it seems like when the Phillies got everybody back together, they won that little bit of an explosion. Remember the great series against St. Louis Cardinals, the one where, of course, Harper got hit in the face and which deflected off his wrist that kind of led to a lot of this. But when they were all healthy, they were really functioning. Now that they're out so much of their offense, it's certainly been a struggle. But they've been eking out some of these games and just hanging in there. And, they go up to New York, the Mets, a lot of people thought they were the favorite. They've had their share of injuries and then some, and they had their own player hit in the face with a baseball. There just hasn't been the opportunity for one team to just sort of separate themselves from the pack. And the pack, all injured like this, Braves had their injuries, Nationals had their injuries. They're all kind of stuck in the middle. So what I kind of see will happen going forward is the team that gets healthy is going to start to separate themselves. And who that's going to be, I have no idea. The thing about injuries this year, coming off last season where they played that really jam-packed 60-game schedule, we're still trying to see the effects of that. Is it related to this? Maybe, but the injuries have
where do the Phillies, in your mind, rank in the NL East in terms of teams that can survive a slew of injuries?
Well, they seem to be hanging in there enough. They're a 500 team or one game under 500, but they've been hanging in there. They've been winning games like they won yesterday, which was not a slam dunk, no doubt about it type win by any means. But they've been hanging in there, and you see that Bryce Hoskins, without the people around him that there used to be, he's missing his Bryce Harper in the lineup. He hits a home run, and some days that's enough. Other days this is not enough because the pitching is going to give up more runs. So it's really hard to say. If you're looking at depth across the National League East, I think you're seeing the depth on all these teams right now. And on all these teams right now, that depth is enough to be hanging in there as a 500 team, give or take. And that's just, with one team in the National League East above 500, I think it's because you're seeing their depth, and there's just it almost feels like there's not enough talent to go around at this point. There's not a lot of free agents out there still, even though there were some left over at the end of the year. I don't know where it's going to come from. And teams are dipping into their system, and they can't dip so far because the 40-man rosters are the 40-man rosters, and you can't add players without subtracting others. And the people in the National League East, they want their players that are on the injured list. They don't want to start cutting them or designating them for assignments so they can make room for more players. That's kind of been a tall task. So I think this is the result. You get a bunch of teams kind of hanging around 500, and we'll see who gets healthy first.
Now, speaking of that depth, I got to ask you about the enigma that's buried inside of a paradox from another reality known as Vince Velasquez, because I don't know what to make of him. I mean, I'm just being honest with you, Frank. I feel like this is a guy who every time he shows us something, you're worried that he's going to implode again. But he has now only given up 3 earned runs. 3 earned runs in the entire month of May. So has Vinny Velo actually turned a corner, or should we keep gripping the desk really hard or gripping the chair really hard every time we see him pitch?
Yeah, the ancient philosopher Aristotle, he very astutely said that people should know thyself. And it sounds like, as we've seen in a nice article from Matt Gelb of The Athletic, that Vince Velasquez is starting to know himself. Some of the comments he made is that he has been a thrower. He has been not somebody who has really pitched up to this point. And I think that's what was really frustrating so many people around the Phillies is they thought that Vince Velasquez was very talented. I frequently said he's got a lot of talent, but he just never seemed to put it together. And there were all the times where his signature 4 2/3 inning starts were him basically getting 2 strikes on somebody and then spending the next 4 pitches trying to strike the guy out rather than just getting the out. He seems more willing to embrace getting the out, not worried about that kind of stuff, making good pitches. And maybe this is the result. I think it's kind of funny is if he could do this for a while, he's a free agent after this year. And what kind of contract do you give someone like him? Do you give him a contract based on him sort of seeming to figure things out, or based upon what you saw for the first several years of his career? So, in my opinion, he's learning how to be a pitcher and not a thrower. And, I was somebody who was critical of the Phillies for bringing him back. I thought, okay, we've seen this enough. But you know what? He seems to have a really good rapport with Caleb Cottom, the new pitching coach. And, hey, for all the times we sarcastically said in the preseason, hey, maybe this is the year that Vince Velasquez finally figures it out. Well, maybe this is the year that Vince Velasquez has finally figured it out.
Well, Frank, the other side of it is they traded away Nick Pivetta last year. And all Nick Pivetta has done since he got to Boston is go 8-0, and he has a great strikeout to inning ratio. And so there's a part of you that kind of is like, I don't want to see the Phillies lose Velasquez because they just didn't know how to deal with him. You know what I mean? Like there's a part of you that looks at Pivetta, who is the same age as Velasquez, by the way, and you're like, wow, you lost something that could have been something maybe there. And if Velasquez is turning a corner, you better find a way to not give up on him too soon, because if he can actually be a serviceable, good pitcher for you for beyond the next few years, you don't want to lose that.
Yeah, the Pivetta thing, I think Vince Velasquez plays into what happened with Pivetta. If you're trying to build a starting rotation and you want 5 guys that are going to pitch for you every 5 days, Vince Velasquez, of course, wasn't even one of the 5. But at some point, the ones that you're rolling the dice with, you can't just roll the dice with multiple people to be starters in your rotation. And it seemed like they looked at the 2 and they decided that, not even looked at the 2 because Pivetta had already been traded out of that desperation for relief arms last year. But, it seemed like they could deal with 1. Having 2 guys that are complete wild cards that you've been through so much with, let's go all the way back to 2012 when the Phillies acquired Pivetta in that Jonathan Papelbon trade. So they've certainly seen a lot of them. I think the people that traded him still thought that there could be something in Nick Pivetta that could be unlocked. But how many guys can you do this with, right? You need to build a rotation that's going to have 5 reliable arms. And in the case of the Phillies, they thought that Howard and Velasquez would be numbers 6 and 7. Of course, right now they are in the 4 and 5 spots, but you just, even with Howard, right? Howard was not that certain an entity coming into this year too. So you can only take so many chances, and the Phillies opted to roll with Velasquez. They gave up on, I don't say gave up on, because they were trying to, it didn't work out. They were trying to acquire pitching when they traded Velasquez, but at some point you just need some more certainty. So if the Phillies get a lot out of Vince Velasquez and Spencer Howard, well, then it seems like that was the right decision. But yeah, it's easy to look at the numbers there. And even Cole Irvin in Oakland, who's been decent. The Phillies opted not to give Cole Irvin the start last year, even though they were desperate for any type of pitching whatsoever, especially down the stretch. And Cole Irvin, he's been serviceable. He hasn't been amazing, but he's been serviceable. He's starting games for the Oakland Athletics, and he's helping them win. So, it is one of the problems of Major League Baseball is when you have some that are so uncertain like that, you just got to pick the ones that you're going to roll with, and you just can't take too many question marks.
Frank Klose joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, our Phillies insider over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Phillies back in action, not tonight, tomorrow for a 2-game set in Tampa. Then they head to Cincinnati for a 3-gamer before returning to Philadelphia for an 8-game set. Frank, any idea why they're not playing tonight?
I think it was just the way the schedule worked out, that there's some of the interleague series, you didn't need that many games. And so what you're seeing a lot is these 2-game weekend series that just sort of happens with a quirky thing in the schedule. And, the Phillies, when they play the Yankees in Philadelphia in a couple weeks, that's also a 2-game series. So it seems to happen in the Interleague Series. Someone pointed out to me that I think it's the Angels and Padres have a Sunday off day, which seems even more bizarre. But yeah, it's just a quirky schedule thing, I guess. It feels really weird for it to be a Friday right now. I feel like it's supposed to be a Thursday or something.
Right, exactly. It doesn't feel like in terms of the Phillies because to me, baseball has always been if you're off on Saturday, maybe you go to the game or you watch a game out with your buddy on Friday, right? Or and then the Friday game gets you kind of like mentally ready for the Saturday game, and so on and so forth. It kind of like throws off like the mental baseball cycle.
Yeah, it might, but I will say this, though. The Phillies went through that long stretch battling those injuries without a lot of days off. They're going to start getting some days off in this next stretch. I think they'll be much, much needed. And I don't know where the Phillies are. I don't know what they're allowed to do right now, but they probably like being off in Clearwater on a Friday. So that's, again, with COVID restrictions, who knows? And by the way, speaking of COVID, maybe that's why they rolled with this on the schedule. They just figured, well, capacities will be down, so we'll just see what works schedule wise, and we'll go with that. We won't make any adjustments for things like this.
Well, you led me right into the final thing I want to hit on you with, Frank. The Phillies are going to have full capacity when they do return home. The city of Philadelphia doesn't just affect the Sixers, as I talked about earlier, Frank. It affects the Phillies as well. We know that in the lower bowl, you can take your mask off already because you're outdoors. We know that they're talking about lifting the mask mandate in the near future as well. And interestingly enough, the Phillies had 25 wins this year. 15 of those wins are at home, interestingly enough. So the Phillies, who are a good home team, they actually have the most wins at home in the National League East. They're going to come home to an unlimited capacity.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see a lot of fans. It sounds like from what I was reading this afternoon from the city of Philadelphia, that they've hit the number of 70% of adults that have gotten at least one shot of their COVID vaccine, which would suggest that within a couple of weeks they'll hit that threshold that was sort of the magic threshold set by Pennsylvania for masks. And so yeah, as a lot of the research has shown, being outside is pretty low risk. So it'll be nice that people can go outside. Just hopefully they don't pack into bathrooms without masks. I think masks are still required in the inside areas.
That's correct.
Like the concourse and in the bathrooms. But yeah, the game. I've attended one game so far this year as a fan in the stands, and the way they were spaced out, it seemed silly to I guess have it on because you were spaced enough. But thankfully, the vaccines have caught up, and Philly's in a good place, and it'll be nice to have a full crowd.
Well, Frank, I think the other side of it also is that we've seen now multiple places around the country have people in buildings, whether it's in
and I also got my vaccine. So hopefully that means I'm in a good spot. But when you're running out of people to pass it on, right now I guess it's just the children. I mean, not that I'm the virologist of the world, but certainly someone who has a young child, they can't get their vaccine yet. We're still looking out for our children, but it seems like at least in terms of adults, they're running out of people to spread it to, and that can carry it and spread to somebody else. So this is an exciting time. It feels like life is returning, and it's especially when you can go to a sporting event outside. What doesn't feel more normal than that, right? I mean, it's probably a really at least significant in some sort of symbolic way for a lot of people that they'll get to go to a game and feel like their old selves again.
Well, it's very symbolic for me, Frank. I mentioned at the top of the show that to me, this time last year was very depressing because, this is kind of like the mark of the start of the summer season for a lot of people. in this area in the Northeast and here in South Jersey and Philadelphia and such. And, last year we couldn't do anything. Now that we have more than maybe some people thought we were going to me, I just consider it a blessing, and I'm thankful that we're here. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, in the warm weather, you can do more outside activities where the chance of spread is low. So it does really, really feel nice. It's me personally, I got to go to a brewery with some live music outside. It just felt normal. It was still outside, but it still felt normal. And I've actually come to like sitting outside. So I didn't like it before, but now I enjoy it. So it's good to know that it's pretty low risk. It's good to know that the people are getting better and healthier. And I guess that's the bottom line, the best thing.
All right, he's Frank Klose, our Phillies insider. Check out his work over at 973ESPN.com. Follow him on Twitter at Frank Klose. That's K for Close on Twitter. Also, his Phillies mailbag is every Tuesday with Mike Gill, so make sure you're following him when he puts out that word for, hey, we got Phillies questions. And Frank, I know sometimes you get about 1 billion Phillies questions, but I'm going to have more people try to give you more Phillies questions if that's okay.
Yeah, last week I had way more than I could use, but keep sending them over. There'll always be good stuff to talk about. Even if I can't write about them, we still try to sneak some of them in.
Frank, have a great weekend. Happy Memorial Day weekend, and take care, my friend.
Thank you. Same to you, Josh.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We're going to get to your guys' thoughts and comments next. Of course, the text board is open at 609-403-0973. For all of you listening on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And of course, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So you can comment as well on the stream as well. We'll get to your thoughts as well here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. Don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Yes, it's powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City, but it's also free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. And customize your alerts right now on the app. You want Phillies updates, Sixers, Flyers, Eagles, high school sports in South Jersey. It's all right there on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. We'll wrap up the show coming up next.
The NBA playoffs continue.
Behind the back escape dribble, left side Durant, and he drops another triple.
Durant, Harden, and Kyrie lead the Brooklyn Nets into Boston for a critical Game 3 against Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, and the Celtics.
Left wing, it's good. Boston takes the lead. Jason Tatum on a three.
The NBA playoffs, Game 3, tonight, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM.
Any vehicle, and Matt Blatt Nissan will buy it for cash or pay top dollar for any trade in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot or online at mattblattnissan.com. David Beckley will be refinanced into new vehicle with qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on 1667 2000 borrowed. Offer can be combined. Murano VIN MC 101371. Road VIN MW 011224. 36 month 10,000 miles for your lease. Lease selling price $28,590. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 5/31/21. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
It's Mike Gill from the Sports Bash. If you're an advertising salesperson, how would you like to sell my show, the Sports Bash, here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media? We're hiring new advertising salespeople to sell the Sports Bash, the number one sports talk show in all of South Jersey at the number one media company in South Jersey. Selling the Sports Bash is the job that will take you as far as you want to go. An excellent compensation package awaits you, as does a creative and fun working environment. So join the team on the Sports Bash and Town Square Media. It's truly the most advanced media company in all of South Jersey. Start or build upon your sales career by becoming a member of our team here at 97.3 ESPN and Town Square Media. If you're interested, apply at townsquaremedia.com. Click on careers. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.
On some models excludes Corvette with GM financing. Excludes prior sale. See dealer for details.
Many car dealers all around the area are having trouble getting inventory, so they're jacking up prices big time. But at Bennett Chevy, we haven't changed a thing. Why would we? You said you love our GM supplier employee pricing. You pay what our supplier employees pay, not a penny more. Bennett also gives you all the rebates, which can add up to a whopping 25% off MSRP.
Plus, Bennett's got available 0% financing that'll save you thousands more.
Looking for used? Good news. Bennett's still paying a minimum $7,000 for any trade you bring us, regardless of condition or miles. Any old Heath is worth a minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. And our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend, so there's no pressure ever. And Bennett Chevy is now an authorized lease return center for all brands. So now more than ever, there's just no beating Bennett. Find new roads at Bennett Chevrolet, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, the NBA playoffs continue tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Tonight, we are going to be bringing you the Celtics and Nets tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow, we have the Heat and the Bucks starting at 1 o'clock. Coverage on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Lakers and Suns on Sunday. And all that NBA action means you want to get in on the action with my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, because the NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel Sportsbook is celebrating by hooking new users up with $100. Bet just $1 on either the Heat Bucks series, so either team in that series, which is tomorrow, 1 o'clock, here the coverage here on 97.3 ESPN. $1 on either team from now until May 30th. FanDuel will give you $100 in site credit even if your bet doesn't win. That's right. New users can bet up to $1 on either the Miami Heat or Milwaukee Bucks from now until May 30th. And FanDuel will give you $100 in site credit even if your bet doesn't win. That's one of the many reasons why FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook. And there's no better way to bet on sports than with their simple-to-use app with unique and fun bet types, such as same-game parlays and exclusive always-on promotions so that you get more action out of every game day. So download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, sign up with my promo code Hennig to get your turn at taking $100 and turning it into a big-time payday. That's promo code Hennig with FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older to play and present in New Jersey. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 7 days after receipt. First bet only. Offer is non-transferable. Terms and restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And there's no UFC fights this weekend, so there's no UFC picks to give out. So The only thing you can do is get in on this offer from FanDuel Sportsbook. Come on, basketball. You get an opportunity to get some extra site credit. Why not, right? All right, let's get to some of your guys' comments out there. Of course, text board is open as always, 609-403-0973. For those of you listening on 97.3 ESPN FM. Also, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where Rodney chimes in a couple different points. First of all, about the Sixers, he says, home court is huge for the Sixers. And of course, Rodney's got the Sixers symbol on his logo, so you know exactly what team he's a fan of. But listen, here's the thing with the Sixers home court. I think that it's something that I talked about this with national NBA writer Ben Golliver a couple weeks ago. I talked about it with Scoop B, Brandon Robinson, NBA Insider, a couple times. I don't think people fully appreciate how valuable home court advantage is when you have a legitimate home court advantage. And I don't mean like Lakers home court advantage, where it's just a bunch of celebrities and superstars out there. Now it's real blue collar, diehard fans showing up to the games. It's a big deal to me. And I think that we don't value it enough. And I think that the numbers pay it out. Listen, when you go almost 81% in the regular season and 64% in the postseason at home as a win percentage, you're doing something right. 609-403-0973 is the text board. I was talking earlier about the different players who have a big role in this team. And Texter says, don't forget about Thibault and what he contributes on defense. I love what he does in that role. How can you not love it? Because this is the time of year that he was made for. This is the time of year that he was born for, and that is the postseason. Thibault is the kind of guy that you want on your team when you get to the postseason. To me, I think he can be like a Bruce Bowen type of guy long term, a guy who is that set 3-point shooter, but gives you incredibly diverse defense, and he does things. I know Doc Rivers compared him to Tony Allen. Some people say he could be another Danny Green, but I really do think that he has a chance to do a lot of different things. So I think that when you look at the situation when it comes to Thibault, I think that he is a year away from eventually being a starter. He just needs to work on his offense a little more. His shooting, his handling of the ball, his learning how to flow into offense is a very important thing in sports. I think that he's still learning that to some extent because when he was in college, he wasn't in the best situation in terms of maximizing his talent. He got to showcase his talent, but he never learned the game like he's learning it now with a guy like Danny Green in the same locker room as him. All right, let's get one more comment over here on YouTube. Follow-up question says, Josh, do you have the Mavericks taking Game 3 against the Clippers? I don't know what happened to their franchise if they get swept or bounce in a gentleman's sweep. Here's the thing with the Mavericks Clippers. I'm leaning toward the Mavericks winning this series, but I gotta believe at some point pride kicks in for the Clippers. I know I see it right now. The Clippers are a 2.5-point favorite on FanDuel Sportsbook. I gotta believe the Clippers find a way to win this game tonight because maybe they had to get away from home to figure it out. I just feel like Paul George has been to a conference finals in the Eastern Conference. Kawhi Leonard's won 2 NBA championships. Rajon Rondo's won 2 rings. I just feel like there's too much pride on the line there for them to lose this game tonight. But maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. I'm Josh Hennig. I'll catch you tomorrow at 12 p.m.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.
The summer season is beginning to heat up, and that means more time in the sun and, unfortunately, an increased risk of skin cancer. It's one of the most common cancers in the United States, with more than 5 million cases diagnosed each year. But here's the good news. Skin cancer is also one of the most preventable forms of cancer. Of course, we know we should slather on the sunscreen when we go to the beach, but we need to protect our skin all the time. Think of it this way. Our skin remembers every minute we spend in the sun, whether we're taking a walk or getting in and out of the car. And ultraviolet rays penetrate through glass, so the windshield is not a sunblock. One of the simplest ways